Sometimes, the woman you think has lost interest isn't losing interest at all. She may be fighting it. And that difference can completely change the story you've been telling yourself. Because attraction doesn't always arrive like a confession. Sometimes it hides behind distance, hesitation, mixed signals, and moments that seem almost contradictory. And if you judge her feelings only by what she says or how often she texts, you might mistake emotional conflict for rejection. Welcome to Female Code Unlocked, where we go beneath the surface of attraction, relationships, and female psychology to uncover the things people rarely say out loud. If you want to understand the hidden emotional patterns behind attraction, subscribe now, because what you're about to discover might make you look at her behavior very differently. Think about the woman who seemed interested at first. She laughed differently around you. She remembered small details you casually mentioned weeks ago. She found reasons to stay near you, then suddenly became distant. One day she seemed warm. The next she felt almost impossible to read. And now you're sitting there wondering, did I imagine everything? You probably didn't. But here's where psychology becomes interesting. People don't always move toward what they desire. Sometimes they move away from it because desire creates vulnerability. When someone realizes that another person has the power to affect their emotions, the instinct isn't always to get closer. Sometimes it's to regain control. And this is where you need to stop confusing emotional restraint with emotional absence. Imagine holding a door closed because you know what's behind it. The locked door doesn't prove there's nothing inside. Sometimes it proves the opposite. You only lock something when you believe there is something worth protecting. A woman who is completely uninterested usually doesn't need to perform emotional resistance. She doesn't need complicated strategies. She simply disengages. Her attention moves elsewhere. Her energy becomes neutral. There is no internal battle because there is nothing emotionally significant to battle. But when attraction collides with fear, pride, uncertainty, past experiences, or the fear of being rejected herself, behavior can become strangely inconsistent. She may pull back after getting close. She may become quieter after revealing something personal. She may suddenly stop giving you the attention she was giving you before. And you might interpret that as, she doesn't like me. But sometimes the deeper question is, what happened emotionally just before she pulled away? Because timing reveals more than isolated behavior ever will. Maybe you made her feel seen. Maybe you gave her attention she wasn't prepared for. Maybe the connection started becoming real enough that she could no longer pretend it was casual. And that is when some people retreat. Not because they feel nothing, but because they suddenly feel too much. There's a darker psychological truth here, too. People protect the parts of themselves they believe can be wounded. If she has learned that showing interest gives someone power over her, she may unconsciously hide that interest. She may delay replies, act less impressed, or create distance just to convince herself that she is still in control. But don't make the mistake of turning every confusing behavior into proof of attraction. That's not psychology. That's wishful thinking. The real skill is learning to recognize patterns instead of obsessing over individual moments. Because one delayed message means almost nothing. One quiet conversation means almost nothing. But when her words say one thing, her emotional behavior says another, and that pattern repeats over time. Now you have something worth paying attention to. And there is one particular sign that can reveal whether her distance is actually disinterest, or whether she is secretly trying to control how much she reveals. It's subtle. Most men completely miss it. And once you notice it, you'll understand why some women seem to pull away precisely when the connection starts becoming emotionally intense. Here's the sign most people overlook. Even when she creates distance, she keeps finding small ways to remain psychologically connected to you. She may not initiate the conversation the way she used to, but she still watches your stories. She may stop asking direct questions, but somehow she knows what you've been doing. She may become quieter in person, yet her attention keeps drifting back toward you. And sometimes, when you finally stop chasing, she suddenly becomes more curious about where your attention went. That doesn't automatically mean she wants a relationship, but it can reveal something important. Emotional detachment and emotional suppression are not the same thing. When someone is genuinely uninterested, distance usually becomes simple. There is less curiosity, less effort, less emotional reaction. You stop occupying their mental space, but when someone is conflicted, the pattern can become strangely different. They create distance, then check whether you noticed. They become cold, then look for reassurance. They pull away, then become curious when you stop pursuing. It can feel like standing outside a house with the lights constantly turning on and off. You don't know whether someone wants you to come inside or wants you to leave. And this is where you have to protect yourself from one of the most dangerous mistakes in attraction: trying to decode someone so intensely that you stop listening to what they are actually communicating. You are not supposed to chase confusion. You are supposed to observe consistency. Because attraction without emotional availability can still hurt you. A woman can be attracted to you and still not be ready for you. She can care about you and still choose distance. She can think about you and still decide not to pursue anything. Feelings are not always decisions. That distinction is powerful. And once you understand it, you stop begging for certainty from someone who is giving you ambiguity. You stop sending another message because you're afraid she might forget you. You stop performing for her attention. You stop trying to prove that you're different from every other man. Instead, you allow her behavior to reveal her position. And strangely enough, this is often where the emotional dynamic changes. Because when you stop trying to control the outcome, you become harder to manipulate by uncertainty. You are no longer emotionally reacting to every little fluctuation. If she becomes distant, you don't panic. If she becomes warm, you don't immediately build a future around it. You simply observe. That emotional stability is powerful because attraction becomes unhealthy when one person is constantly chasing clarity while the other person controls the pace through uncertainty. And here's the part nobody tells you. Sometimes the woman you think is playing hard to get isn't playing anything. She may genuinely be unsure. She may like you, but fear what liking you means. She may have been hurt before. She may be protecting her independence. Or she may simply not feel enough attraction to move forward. You cannot read her mind, but you can read patterns. Look for reciprocity. Does she eventually make an effort? Does she remember details? Does she create opportunities to interact? Does she become emotionally open with you? Does she respect your presence? Does she make space for you instead of only responding when you chase? Because real interest eventually creates movement. Not always immediately, not always dramatically, but somewhere beneath the hesitation, there is usually effort. And if there is nothing but distance, excuses, and one-sided pursuit, stop romanticizing the silence. Sometimes silence is not a hidden message. Sometimes silence is the message. The deepest form of confidence isn't convincing someone to want you. It's having enough self-respect to let their behavior answer the question for you. So the next time you think, she's not interested, don't immediately chase. And don't immediately walk away either. Pause. Watch. Listen. Look at the pattern. Because attraction isn't always loud. Sometimes it hides behind hesitation. Sometimes it trembles behind distance. And sometimes there is simply nothing there. Your power is knowing the difference. And once you can tell the difference, you stop chasing women for answers they are already giving you through their behavior. You become calmer, more grounded, more emotionally intelligent. And most importantly, You stop abandoning yourself just because someone else hasn't decided what they want. That is the real psychology of attraction, not learning how to make someone want you, learning how to recognize when someone already does, and having the strength to walk away when they don't.